On Africa 24 English, the African Union Journal is presented to you by Afreximbank.
Welcome to the African Union Journal, your weekly rendezvous on news around the African Union. In this edition, we examine the challenges and opportunities shaping education in Africa, including the growing role of artificial intelligence in learning. We also look at the African Union's call for greater investment in water resources, the new UK-Ghana Growth Partnership, and profile economist Mavis Owusu-Gyamfi, a leading advocate for Africa's economic transformation. We begin with education. Although school enrollment rates have increased significantly across the continent in recent years, learning outcomes remain a major concern. According to recent estimates, only a minority of pupils achieve basic literacy and numeracy skills. Christian Belaba reports.
Africa's education system experienced significant development between 2023 and 2025, marked by both progress and persistent challenges. According to official data, the youth literacy rate in sub-Saharan Africa reached approximately 77.5% in 2023-2024, while the adult literacy rate stood at around 64%, reflecting a gradual improvement in access to education.
Il s'agit strictement d'évaluation.
Its mission is to evaluate the various education systems. This is a major challenge for the different education systems across the country. Assessment is not intended for rankings, as we have reiterated today, but rather to enable us to go further and make greater progress.
Pour des classements, on l'a rappelé tout à l'heure, mais évoluer pour permettre d'aller plus loin.
However, the main challenge currently concerns the quality of education. A UNESCO report published in 2025 revealed that only 10.8% of pupils achieve minimum proficiency levels in reading and mathematics by the end of primary school. This situation highlights a genuine crisis in foundational learning.
EduSoft was a learning management system, perhaps the only one of its kind in Africa, because UNESCO adopted it and I installed it in 13 African universities under UNESCO, the auspices of UNESCO. University of Nairobi used EduSoft for 10 good years. Out of that, I got a Distinguished Scholar Award of the University of Nairobi.
African education systems are facing a severe teacher shortage, with an estimated 15 million teaching positions needing to be filled by 2030 in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. In this context, the African Union declared 2024 the year of education to strengthen teacher training. In South Africa, despite the annual training of between 24,000 and 30,000 teachers, staff departures remain high, more than 32,000 over 5 years, creating an imbalance between the needs of the education system and the available workforce.
It's not easy to teach them when they are so overcrowded in the classrooms. It's totally difficult, because when you go to other classes, their tables, they are just in front of the chalkboard, so there are so many.
Public investment in education remains a major concern in several countries, often standing below 4% of GDP, which limits the modernization of school infrastructure and the improvement of educational quality. In Senegal, however, education accounts for a significant share of public expenditure, representing approximately 29.8% of the state budget, excluding debt servicing, and more than 7% of GDP.
As African countries seek new ways to improve learning, artificial intelligence is gaining attention. The African Union believes the technology could help expand access to education and support teachers despite persistent infrastructure and connectivity challenges. More details in this report.
Faced with persistent educational challenges, artificial intelligence is emerging as a transformative force in Africa. The African Union has made it a key pillar of its strategy to ensure its ethical and equitable use. In a context where 97.5 million children remain out of school, AI can personalize learning, ease teachers' workloads, and improve access to education content, particularly in rural areas.
What does it mean that you go to a school and it doesn't even teach you how to use a tool that you use at home? You go out to a work and you arrive to a company and they say, can you give me great ideas coming from all the tools in AI? If you're not even able to talk to AI, to ask the right questions, prompting, we talk about prompting engineering.
The integration of artificial intelligence into African schools, however, faces significant challenges. The digital divide remains a major obstacle. Only 40% of primary schools and 50% of lower secondary schools have sufficient internet connectivity. In addition, many regions still lack reliable electricity, computer equipment, and adequate teacher training.
In Nigeria and Africa, these kids are going to power the next technology revolution in Nigeria, right? The current technology revolution in Nigeria is powered by software, but the next phase is going to be powered by software, hardware, AI, robotics, and IoT. And it's these kids that are going to power it. So we want to show people the power that it has, the potential that it has, and how it can help Africa solve its developmental challenges.
Despite these obstacles, the shift is already underway and the race for tomorrow's talent has begun. South Africa, Tunisia, Egypt, Mauritius, and Rwanda are leading the way by already integrating robotics and digital technologies into their school curricula. The strategic objective is to prepare young people for emerging careers in cybersecurity, data analytics, and programming.
The future of work and the future of humans is definitely a collaboration with machines and with AI. And that's what we need to understand, and that's why I advocate very strongly to train as many people as we can and put the technology between the hands of every individual on Earth, not only in Africa, but in Africa for sure. This is very important to us.
The stakes are enormous. Artificial intelligence could generate between $2.9 billion and $4.8 billion in economic value across the continent by 2030. For experts, the priority is now to adapt educational programs so that the young Africans become not only consumers of these technologies, but also their designers and creators, shaping the world of tomorrow.
Education remains one of the most effective tools for reducing poverty. According to the World Bank, each additional year of schooling can increase an individual's earning by around 9%, highlighting the importance of continued investment in the sector.
Considered by the World Bank as the safest way to sustainably escape poverty, education contributes to employment, economic growth, and improved living conditions. Each additional year of schooling leads to an average 9% increase in hourly earnings, while UNESCO estimates that education has helped reduce extreme poverty by 40% since 1980.
Par exemple, au sein de Aoudan EHPAD, nous avons une initiative avec.
For example, within Aoudan EHPAD, we have an initiative with the Germans to provide distance training for young Africans who are unemployed. There are online programs, and we are working with several African countries to help them establish technical training policies in relation to the fields they consider to be in demand in their countries in order to develop a variety of skills. These training courses are open. They are free of charge. There is follow-up and online monitoring.
Mentoring en ligne.
Despite the progress made, access to quality education remains a challenge. According to UNESCO, 273 million children and young people were still out of school worldwide in 2024. The World Bank also highlights that 7 in 10 children in low and middle-income countries do not master basic reading skills by the age of 10.
Some parents, they are not ready and willing to support the child. We find it very difficult as a teacher to teach such a child because you are not seeing any encouragement from home.
International institutions stress that the quality of learning largely depends on teacher skills. According to UNESCO, every dollar invested in education can generate up to $15 in economic returns in several high-performing education systems. The teaching profession enjoys high recognition and continuous support, seen as essential for improving school outcomes and strengthening human capital.
People are more interested in building classroom blocks than they are interested in investing in teacher development, both pre-service, in-service. And so the things we must get right is that all the school systems that are top-performing school systems actually place the teaching profession at the top of the professional ladder in their countries.
Beyond the acquisition of knowledge, education is a key driver of social mobility and economic resilience. International organizations are therefore calling for increased investment in training, technical skills development, and teacher support. In a context marked by inequalities and shift in labor market, education appears more than ever as a key tool for reducing poverty and promoting sustainable and inclusive development.
News in brief, in this edition, the African Union is calling for a rethink of investment in the water sector. More than 130 deaths of Ebola cases recorded in DR Congo and Angola. The Togolese Republic hosted the 8th annual Forum of National Volunteer Agencies of the Economic Community of West African States. Rafael Antolo reports.
On the sidelines of the 2026 annual meetings of the African Development Bank held in the Republic of Congo, a high-level dialogue took place, during which the Commissioner of the African Union for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment, Moses Bilakati, strongly advocated for a redefinition of the concept of bankability for projects. According to him, investment assessments should no longer be limited to financial returns alone, but must also take into account the human and economic cost of inaction. He highlighted the urgency of the situation, noting that more than 400 million Africans still lack access to basic drinking water, while nearly 700 million people face severe shortages of sanitation and hygiene infrastructure. To bridge this gap and achieve sustainable development goal by 2030, the African Union estimates that the continent must mobilize between $30 billion and $50 billion annually, while current funding levels remain far below what is required. Facing the alarming resurgence of the rare Bundibugyo strain of the Ebola virus, which has already caused 136 deaths out of 676 confirmed cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo and 2 deaths out of 19 cases in Uganda, the Commission of the Economic and Monetary Community of Central Africa is calling for a general mobilization to prevent the spread of the disease in the sub-region, highlighting porous borders as a major risk factor. While the World Health Organization has classified this outbreak as a public health emergency of international concern, the institution is urging its member states to activate contingency plans, strengthen epidemiological surveillance, and enforce strict health controls at borders under a One Health approach. It also announced the establishment of a regional emergency fund to safeguard the region against the threat. The Togolese Republic hosted from 2 to 4 June 2026 the 8th Annual Forum of National Volunteer Agencies of the Economic Community of West African States, held under the theme From Knowledge to Action, Practical Tools and Reliable Data to Strengthen the Role of Volunteering in the ECOWAS region. The high-level event brought together key stakeholders in the sector as well as technical and institutional partners. The main objective of the meeting was to harmonize data collection and management mechanisms on volunteering across the community space. Through plenary sessions and working groups, participants shared best practices to develop a single reference framework and common indicators. Led by the ECOWAS Youth and Sports Development Center, the forum aims to strengthen volunteering as a strategic tool for regional integration, peace and sustainable development in West Africa. It was also recorded that Togo has mobilized 83,842 national volunteers since 2011 and plans to engage 140,000 young people by 2028. These discussions focus on improving data systems to ensure standardized and comparable volunteering statistics across member states.
From education to economic development, Ghana and the United Kingdom have signed a new growth partnership building on agreement of $289 million. The initiative aims to support investment, infrastructure, and job creation. Lucrez Mbogol reports.
Ghana and the United Kingdom are strengthening their economic cooperation. On June 2, 2026, the two countries signed a growth partnership for the 2026 and 2028 period during the official visit of Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama to London. The agreement provides for up to $289 million in investments aimed at boosting job creation, attracting more private capital, and supporting Ghana's economic development. Priority sectors include trade, infrastructure, industrialization, as well as education and vocational training.
The strategic entry points into the ECOWAS and African markets. ECOWAS market of over 425 million people and the African continental trade area, which represents more than 1.4 billion consumers with a combined GDP exceeding $3 trillion. No serious global investor can ignore the scale of opportunity emerging across Africa.
Authorities expect the agreement to boost economic growth and employment, particularly for young people and women, while strengthening bilateral ties. The project is expected to create up to 430 direct jobs, with 30% reserved for women. Its environmental component includes an £85 million reforestation fund, plus an additional £9 million for the OT region, combining sustainability and local development in response to climate challenges.
UK-backed private infrastructure development group PIDGE is making its largest investment to date, a £101 million ship repair and dry docking facility at Takoradi Port. This will create up to 430 jobs, 30% of which for women.
According to official data, between February 2025 and February 2026, Ghana's exports to the United Kingdom increased by £190,000, rising from £12.4 million to £12.6 million. During the same period, imports increased by £995,000 from £27.2 million to £28.2 million.
Ghana offers a compelling proposition. We combine political stability, a strong democratic tradition, a strategic geographic location, abundant natural resources, a youthful and talented workforce, and preferential access to a continental market of over 1.4 billion people across the African continental free trade area.
This partnership sends a strong signal to investors. Ghana is committed to a structural transformation driven by the private sector, innovation and infrastructure development. By combining investment and skills development, the agreement is redefining bilateral cooperation and positioning the country as a long-term engine of growth in Africa.
The Regional Health Investment Forum will be held on 13 to 14th July 2026 at the Mokhtar Ould Dada Conference Center in Nouakchott, Mauritania. Organized by the Islamic Center for Development of Trade, ICDT, under the theme Strengthening Intra-OIC Trade and Investment in the Pharmaceutical Sector, from Strategy to Action. This event will bring together ministers, investors, pharmaceutical manufacturers, financial institutions, healthcare operators, regulatory agencies, and international organizations. The forum aims to promote investment in local production of medicines and vaccines, strengthen regional value chains, encourage public-private partnerships, and improve access to quality health products within OIC member states. 44th Annual Southern African Transport Conference, SATC 2026, 6 to 9 July 2026, Pretoria, South Africa. The 44th Annual Southern African Transport Conference, SATC 2026, will take place from 6 to 9 July 2026 in Pretoria, South Africa. This major event for the transport sector in Southern Africa will bring together engineers, researchers, public decision-makers, logistics operators, and regional institutions. Discussions will focus on the modernization of transport infrastructure, sustainable mobility, the digitalization of logistics systems, and regional integration. The event aims to propose innovative solutions to improve connectivity and support economic growth in the SADC region. The 5th edition of the African Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum will be held in 2026 in St. Kitts and Nevis. Organized by Afreximbank, this forum serves as a major platform for economic cooperation between Africa and the Caribbean. bringing together investors, policymakers, and business leaders from both regions. Active 2026 will focus on strengthening trade, investment, and South-South cooperation in strategic sectors such as renewable energy, agribusiness, fintech, tourism, and cultural industries. The event is also aligned with the Sustainable Development Agenda of St. Kitts and Nevis and aims to further consolidate transatlantic economic partnerships between Africa and the Caribbean.
And staying with economic transformation, we turn to one of Africa's leading development thinkers. As president of the African Center for Economic Transformation, Mavis Owusu-Gyamfi advocates greater investment in human capital, innovation and industrialization to strengthen African economies. Her profile with Christian Belobo.
President and Chief Executive Officer of the African Center for Economic Transformation has said Ghanaian economist Mavis Owusu-Gyamfi is a leading voice in Africa's development agenda. She advocates for the mobilization of human capital and domestic resources to finance the continent's transformation. Through a the Accra-based think tank, she champions industrialization, education and innovation as key drivers of Africa's future growth.
So a lot of the conversations we've been having today, the last few days, have been first at the domestic level, okay? How do we strengthen our domestic resource mobilization? How do we broaden and deepen our domestic resource mobilization? How do we deepen our domestic capital markets? So that's the first thing, okay? And a lot of the work, when you talk to permanent secretaries, ministers, the fundamental issue on both of those things is what I call defragmentation, a disconnect at the national level.
Although she operates outside partisan politics, her influence among African leaders and peacemakers remains significant. Her career has seen her advise governments, international institutions and development organizations on economic and social policies. Before taking the helm of ASET in 2024, she held senior positions within the United Kingdom's Department for International Development, DFID, the NGO Save the Children, and the Power of Nutrition, an organization specializing in financing nutrition programs in developing countries.
By collaborating, actually we'll move a lot faster on domestic resource mobilization. And these days, with digital public infrastructure, anything is possible. And at the domestic capital market, again, right policies, right regulations, giving people the assurance that their money is safe and their money will be invested. You deepen that capital market, then you go to the regional level.
On education, ASET believes that Africa's economic future depends on its ability to develop a skilled workforce capable of adapting to technological change. Mavis Owusu-Gyamfi advocates for education systems that place greater emphasis on skills development, science, digital technologies, and innovation. In her view, education is not merely a social issue, but a strategic investment that will enable Africa to transform its vast demographic potential into a driver of growth and competitiveness.
If a Ministry of Finance is looking at its annual budget, okay, if it truly wants to ensure women are part of the productive labor force, it needs to do a few things. Firstly, it needs to ask itself, are we adequately financing women in education? Okay, what are the challenges for women in education, and are we adequately financed?
Having joined ASET in 2020 as Executive Vice President, Mavis Owusu-Gyamfi helped strengthen the institution's position as a leading African center for economic research and public policy development. Under her leadership, the organization focuses on the structural transformation of African economies, job creation, private sector development, regional integration, and implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA.
Thank you for watching this edition of the African Union Journal. Coming up next, a new edition of African News.
On Africa 24 English, the African Union Journal is presented to you by Afreximbank.